What's going on, guys? Happy Monday. It is Monday, January 20-something, 23rd. So we're about a week left from February. How's your winter going so far? Anybody get any snow? I know here on the East Coast, we actually had some big old snowflakes today, but it did not, it didn't stick. Like, it stuck for about 10 minutes, and that was about it. So, Sean, thank you for joining. So, what about you guys? Anybody getting any snow yet this winter? Anybody hoping for snow this winter? So, where's everybody chatting from or joining in from here today? So, going live a little bit early. Normally, you go around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but decided to go here at 7 o'clock on the East Coast. So, we'll see if people join in. If not, we'll have a little bit of fun. And we got some MS trivia here, so hopefully some more people join in. We'll try to see who knows their stuff, right? See who knows. Maybe we'll learn a little bit, and we'll talk to each other. So we'll give some people more time here. But so if you're here, let me know where you're joining in from. So again, here it's winter time. Let me know if you guys got snow also, because again, we got some flurries today, and it stuck for about 5 minutes, and that was about it. So I don't really count that, but that's okay. So I see some people hopping in and out here, so that's okay. So I hope you guys are doing well. I'm adjusting my thing here. Oh, Dad's in here. Hey, Dad. How about those Bengals, huh? Guess you're pretty excited. So Bengals play Kansas City, I believe, right? And then I guess it's the Niners and the Eagles, right? So oh yeah. So do you still have your inflatables up in your living room and dining room, or is that just like game day? So I guess I'll say I guess I'm rooting for Cincinnati. Rooting for Cincinnati. I know Philadelphia's a little closer to me, but got to root for Cincinnati to root with you. So Ravens got knocked out. Who dey? So yeah, like I said, I'm on a little bit earlier than normal tonight, so maybe that's why there's not too many people in here. But hey, we'll give it time, and we'll go through and see if anybody participates. If not, maybe we'll try to get next week. We'll see how this goes. If nobody shows up, we'll see what happens. So if you are wondering what multiple sclerosis is, it is a autoimmune condition in which your immune system is attacking your nerve cells. It eats away the fatty coating on the nerve cells, which is called myelin, and eventually can lead to disability over time. And it affects, actually I'm not going to say what it affects because that might be a question in the trivia here. So maybe you'll learn a little something. So thanks for the likes. If you guys want to share it, maybe we can get people to join in, but see if anybody wants to kind of join in here. Paige, how are you? Make sure you get your water. It's in a cup this time, not a bottle. to avoid the stink bug incident that happened a few months ago. So not too bad, not too bad. I was asking earlier if anybody got any snow. Anybody get any snow where you guys are? I can't remember where you said you were from, but I know Erin, she's out in the Pittsburgh area. I don't know if you guys got any snow out there. But we got some flurries today, and not too much. So how are you? How are you? So Erin, who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl now? I know you probably were not rooting for Baltimore, but I know everybody around here is probably rooting for Philly, but Utah, okay. I've been to Park City, Utah. Went to, I'm trying to think when that was, probably 2004. No, it was 2004. We lived in Florida at the time and actually won concert tickets off the radio to go out to Park City, Utah. There was a Pepsi Smash concert out there with Green Day and Good Charlotte and things like that. So people actually win those grand prize things on the radio. So that was my only time out there in Utah. So I don't know, honestly, what part of Utah that is, if it's southwest corner or not. But it was Park City. We flew into Salt Lake City, and it was at whatever resort was right next to the I guess where they did the Olympics the one year. So I can't remember. It might have been like Cannon Valley Resort or something like that. But that was my experience with Utah. So we kind of flew into Denver and then hopped over there. So okay, so it's east of Salt Lake City. So that was a long time ago. It's crazy to think it's 2023 at this point, but yeah, that was a long time ago. But so again, I'm on a little early today. A little earlier than normal. We did initially 9 o'clock, and then we've been doing 8 o'clock. But I was like, a lot of times I would do these my Chat MS chats on Twitter. Haven't really been on Twitter too much here lately, but we would always do that in the 7 o'clock time frame, and then I would come on here at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and do that. But I said, you know what? With some trivia, maybe we'll have a little bit of fun on TikTok instead. So didn't really do that on Twitter today, but we'll have to get back to the chats there. Here soon. So if you're following me on Twitter or Facebook, the Chat MS chat should resume here shortly. It may not be an every week thing. Same here with these lives on TikTok, but what I hope to do is actually to start doing more on YouTube as well. So maybe I'll take this live and we'll download it and I'll post it to YouTube. From what I could see, and Paige, I think you do YouTube as well. I believe the comments don't carry over, if I'm correct. So the YouTube video, I guess, will be me just kind of blabbing, and you have to kind of imagine what's on the screen there, I guess. So, Blake, what's up, dude? Okay, close to the Vegas. I've been to Vegas a few times. So, okay. Blue skies. What's the temperature during the day out there? Is it warmer? Is it colder? Like, I know you said blue skies and all, but here it's like the low 40s or whatever. But I know there's a chance of snow here on Wednesday, but even then, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a big event, but that's okay. Like I like the snow, but I don't like necessarily like a lot of snow, I guess. So 40. Okay, so it's about the same out there then. Okay. Yeah, I know. Christmas got real cold. Christmas was like below 10, and the wind chill was like negative 15 or negative 16 or something like that, which is usually never happens out this way. But so I guess we've been about 10, 15 minutes, I guess, so in here. So I mean, there's a few of us. We'll do some trivia. Maybe some more people will pop in as we go. Before I go, I guess we'll just say, one, I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. So anything we talk about here today, please don't use anything as medical advice. Do not make any changes to your healthcare regimen without talking to your healthcare team. So it is good to talk to other people with MS and just see what other people are doing. But again, don't make any changes without talking to your doctors to find out what's best for you. Because as we all know with MS, what works for one does not work for another necessarily. Maybe it will, but maybe it won't. And we're all different. So before we get started, I actually posted a video earlier today. I found out, so I've been on the medication Gilenya. And hey, how are you? Thanks for joining, Stellar. So before we get into the trivia here, which I think would be a little bit of fun, a little fun. But so I've been on the medication Gilenya since February of 2013. So literally only a couple weeks away from being 10 years. And now that generics have hit the market, I guess the funding has stopped now for Gilenya, and I guess rumor has it their patient assistance program is going away in March, I believe I heard. So I've been going for 10 years and haven't really paid anything for the medication, which is awesome, and the medication's been working great. So for, since I started it, I've had 0 new lesions, I've had no side effects, I've had no issues whatsoever. And now I kind of get the news that I guess the patient assistance might be going away. So I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen. I kind of talked to my neurologist briefly, who kind of gave me a heads up that this could be happening. So I don't know if I'm still going to be able to get approved for Gilenya, and if I do, like, how much is that copay going to be? I don't know if they're going to try to switch me to the generic version of Gilenya, which I did see. So Gilenya is a once-a-day pill. You take it, where I saw this new medicine, and I can't remember the name of it, but the generic version actually dissolves on your tongue or dissolves under your tongue, which is interesting. And supposedly it's the fingolimod, so it's supposed to be working the same way as Gilenya, but in some cases, generics, when you think generic medications, you think, oh, it's a lot cheaper. But in some cases, it might be cheaper overall. But when it comes to the patient cost or the copays, it might not be the case. So I could go from paying nothing right now to actually ended up paying quite a bit out of pocket if I wanted to go through the generic. So I kind of have that option if that doesn't work out. And then the other option, of course, is do I switch medications? And that's kind of a scary thought. Like I said, after being on this medication for 10 years and not having any issues at all and being stable, just the thought of switching medications is pretty scary. Because I don't know what to expect with that. And there's a couple of different medications out there that are new and obviously, have great results. And, if I had to think of one that I would probably go down the path of, so fingolimod is not the brand name, but the actual name of the medication. So Gilenya is fingolimod. So I can't remember what the trade name actually is of the generic, or maybe they did just call it fingolimod. I could be wrong. But so just the thought of having to switch medication is actually kind of scary, because you never know with side effects. And I'm sure if you guys are here with MS and have had MS for quite a bit, of different side effects that medications can have. And again, some people have side effects, some people don't. Again, I've been very, very well on Gilenya, whereas I know some people that have been on Gilenya that couldn't stay on it very long because of side effects, or maybe it didn't work for them. It didn't stop their lesions or anything like that. So the one, I guess, if I had to switch, I would probably research is probably Ocrevus. I hear so many good things about Ocrevus, and I think it's pretty well tolerated. So I would love to, if anybody's on Ocrevus, or actually if anybody's on Gilenya and made a switch to another medication, that would be kind of cool too. Let me know. So I got to kind of research some of the paths there, but I am hoping that everything just works out. Again, it's been, 10 years, it's a whole decade. It's 2 hands. It's been 10 years on this medication, and now there's a chance I might have to switch for a reason other than, I can understand if maybe it stopped working or anything like that. But in this case, it's just a funding thing, the copay assistance thing. And, the medications are so expensive. And then it makes me wonder, too. I know Ocrevus has only been on the market for a couple years. But say if I switch to Ocrevus or any medication, really, Tysabri or Kesimpta or anything out there, and say that works. But then all of a sudden they lose their funding. Am I going to have to switch again? So I don't know. I think the healthcare system I think needs a lot of work, and I don't know what the answer is for that, and I'm not going to even try. But it's definitely just seems like a big money game at this point. So I was diagnosed in November of 2012. So I just hit the 10-year mark for that too, and I was 30 years old. I woke up. It was July of 2012. I woke up with some numbness around my tailbone area, and it quickly spread to pretty much everywhere from the chest down. And it wasn't like numb as in I couldn't feel anything. It was more like sensory. Like I could tell something was touching me, but it just didn't feel right. Like the full sensation wasn't there. So it led to a ER visit, and I won't tell you the whole story, but long story short, they did blood work. They did like all these tests, told me everything was fine, sent me back home. Ended up going back the very next day because when I got out of bed, and every time I would take a step, I would get tingling all the way up my legs. So I would step with my left foot, and it would like tingle all the way up my legs, and the same thing with the right foot. So I went back, and they did more tests. Again, couldn't find anything wrong, so they sent me to a neurologist. The neurologist looked me in the eyes and said, "Hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You're making it up." And I'm like, well, why would I make it up? Like, what sense does that make at all? Just had a child 3 months beforehand, but I've had symptoms since I was 16. Okay. Yeah, you actually hear that a lot. A lot of people have symptoms before that they just kind of can link it together after a certain amount of time. But so, yeah, 30. Well, the most common age is between like 20 and 40, or I've seen some say 20 and 50. So 30 definitely falls right in that time range. So, but anyway, long story short, my neurologist looked me in the eyes and he told me, "There's nothing wrong with you. You're making it up." And about a week later, I started getting tingling in my fingertips. And he's like, "Oh, well, that's your neck." So then he did an MRI of the C-spine, found a lesion in my spinal cord at the C2, and then did an MRI of the brain, saw some lesions up there. So all of a sudden it went from "you're making it all up" to now it's, "Hey, you have MS." And I'm like, what are you talking about? How do you go from one extreme to the other? Long story short, that first neurologist wouldn't answer any questions I have. He would cut me off mid-sentence and just like, it was awful, like truly awful. And but now I see an MS specialist and I couldn't be happier, which is awesome. So but yeah, so this week let's do a little bit of trivia. And I know there's a few of you guys in here, but maybe some more people will join in. But let's have a little bit of fun, maybe learn some stuff, and maybe talk about a couple things. So ER doctor told me I was having an anxiety attack. You gotta love that, right? Yeah, maybe you're having some anxiety because of the symptoms you were having, right? So I have the same issue. Good, you found one to help. Yeah, I love the specialist I see now. And that's one of the things I highly recommend is if you can find an MS specialist, or not even that necessarily. I would recommend an MS specialist, but it's important overall to have a medical team that you're comfortable with. A medical team that actually listens to you and doesn't just treat you like another number. One to actually like answer your questions and maybe suggest things. Like my neurologist, made it very clear. I mean, my first appointment with him was over 2 hours long. And he actually sat down and he went over the MRI results and told me, "Hey, this is why we're saying it's this, and this medication, works this way and this." And he was making recommendations, and then he made it very clear that it was my decision. Like if I didn't want to do a medication at all, that was my decision. So like he made it very clear that overall it was, it was my decision, which I thought was really cool. He did make some recommendations. He was at the time, Gilenya was fairly new. It was the only one on the market. But so I was kind of choosing either that or Tysabri. And Tysabri at the time, the risk was a little higher for PML, which is like this brain infection. And it sounded kind of scary, right? Nobody wants to deal with that. But if I knew then what I know now, I actually probably would have went with Tysabri because I know so many people that do really, really well on Tysabri. So it's MS hereditary. My bio father passed from complications with pneumonia and MS back in 2000. So there's a theory that it could be hereditary. There's evidence that it might not be. I believe studies those, and Paige, you can help me out here if you know numbers, but some studies show that if you have a sibling or a parent, I guess, with MS, that the chances of the child is a little bit higher. I don't know what that actual percentage is, but all in all, the percentage of getting MS in general is fairly low when you look at the the general population. But I know in my case, I was the only one in the family that has it. But I've seen instances where, a parent and like 4 children all have it in the same family. So of course they're going to think it's hereditary. But in my case and several other cases, we might be the only ones, which doesn't fit the hereditary information. So I know there's a theory out there that MS is hereditary, but there's nothing proven outside the fact that they do say that your risk or a child's risk of developing it is a little bit higher than maybe a child whose parents do not have MS. And I don't know, again, what those exact numbers are off the top of my head, but it's not necessarily something that's like passed down from generation to generation, if that makes sense. But I mean, I wish we would hurry up and find out, what the cause is, and I do think it's definitely environmental of some sort. I also think we kind of talked about this. I think might have been the last time I was on here about maybe some sort of like trauma event that like might lead to MS, whether it's like physical trauma or emotional trauma. I know I had it about I don't know what it was, maybe 13 years ago, where I actually had an issue with like myocarditis and pericarditis. So like my heart tissue was inflamed, the sac around my heart was inflamed, and they pretty much thought I was having a heart attack at first. So I know I was taking these like super crazy like anti-inflammatories for months, and they still don't know what it is. They pretty much told me it was viral, which is kind of scary. So I don't know if I don't know if that had something to do with it. I don't know. I hear people that have said they started experiencing symptoms after like a major trauma event, maybe like a death in the family or, something else like that. So I would love to know if that's related. Could a trauma thing be related to somebody developing MS? They've made the link now between the Epstein-Barr virus and those with MS. So the majority of MS patients have antibodies for the Epstein-Barr virus. I know I've seen a couple that said they've tested negative for the antibodies. I thought I would, because I don't remember ever having mono or anything like that. But when I got my antibodies checked for EBV or the Epstein-Barr virus, they did come back positive. So that was a little shock to me. So I know they're definitely exploring, the link there. This thing keeps moving on me. Sorry, guys. But so I think there's so many different factors. Okay, Paige, you tested negative for EBV. Or EBV. But so it goes to show that like we're all different. And again, what works for one person may not work for somebody else. But so hey, what do you say we have a little bit of fun? Let's test your knowledge. You guys want to play trivia? All 10 of you guys. So okay, so you had mono about a year before. Okay, so that's interesting. And I guess the question is raised then too, like, well, if there is a link between Epstein-Barr and MS, well, what, 90% or 90+% of the population has been exposed to Epstein-Barr, well, why don't they have MS? But, so I know there's a lot of research being done. I know they're actually looking into new treatment options or maybe going down different paths related to EBV. So I'm excited to see where that leads. Obviously, there's remyelination drugs that are being out there. That are being tested. So that would be amazing, right? To actually be able to our nerves to rebuild themselves or remyelinate to get those signals working properly. Like that would be amazing. So I tested positive and never thought I had it over 10 years ago. Yeah, I had no idea. I thought for sure. I was talking to my neurologist and he's like, "Oh, you've had it." And I'm like, "No, I haven't had anything." He's like, "No, you have." And like he was pretty confident. He's like, literally every one of my MS patients have tested positive for EBV. So outside of just like a couple people, I know Paige, you just said you have it, but outside of a couple people, mostly everybody I've talked to, I have tested positive for EBV, and I've never had mono. And I'm sure there's probably other things than just mono that's related to EBV. But so it was a shock to me. So I'm excited to see where that leads. And I do think, just excited to see developments. And, so we'll get into here in a little bit, but just to see where treatments have come over the past couple decades, I'm excited to see what the future brings. Because it seems like each one that comes out as like a new breakthrough. And I think one of the big things for me with medication is the safety aspect of it. And I mean, I worry long term. I mean, I've been on Gilenya 10 years, but I worry like, well, what is that doing on a long term basis? Because basically, it's trapping my white blood cells in my lymph nodes. And I'm like, is there like a long term effect from that? I have no idea. But that's not just MS medications; it's any medication. You know, always worry about the long term effects from that. So, I do not see a rheumatologist. I saw a neurologist. Well, now I see an MS specialist who's a neurologist. And then because of the Gilenya, I do see an eye doctor every 6 months because Gilenya has been known to kind of cause some swelling behind the eye. And I see a dermatologist every 6 months to a year just to get body checks because I know some people said Gilenya can have some links to some skin cancers and things like that too. So other than that, I believe that's the only doctors I see, unless I'm missing one, but not a rheumatologist, no. Hey, Tracy's here. Everybody say hi to Tracy. So anyway, let's go through some trivia. I think I have 10 questions today. I probably could have had a whole bunch more, but if this goes well, maybe we'll just do it again some other time. But you guys can't cheat. That's my rule. That's my only rule is you guys can't cheat. I know you got your laptops or, I mean, well, technically you're probably on your phone, so unless you leave the live and come back, I guess you can't really cheat using your phones. But don't cheat. Let me know what you guys think. So, EBV stands for Epstein-Barr virus.
Honey, you need to turn your screen around.
What do you mean?
Because it's backwards, even though you have it backwards.
Are the words backwards on your end?
I'm telling you.
Are they backwards? Are they really backwards?
Honey.
How weird is that?
I know you probably have the thing on so it switches you.
All right, hang on, guys. I'm going to try to switch the screen here. Flip camera. Let's see. Oh, that's my LED light. That's not it.
Nope.
Why didn't you guys tell me? You're literally looking at the screen the whole time and not a single person said a word. This is hilarious.
They're waiting for me to call you out.
Does anybody know how to switch this? Oh, wait. Mirror your video. Hang on.
Or just switch that to normal.
Is it better?
Yes.
We're good? All right. Tracy says we're good now. That is hilarious. Not a single person said a word the whole time. You guys are all reading backwards and like never said a word. That is the greatest thing ever. You guys are testing me. It still looks normal on my end. I don't know. It still looks the same on my end.
Then you did something.
So. Well, now we can do some trivia. Now that you guys know what's on the screen here. You guys are going to let me go this whole hour and not say a single word, weren't you?
I got you back.
I appreciate it. I feel like an idiot. Okay. So question number 1. Remember, no cheating. What does the term multiple sclerosis stand for? Does anybody know? Let me know what you think. What does it stand for? No cheating. If I see you guys leaving and coming back or keep joining, I know you're cheating. But what does the term multiple sclerosis stand for? All right, I see a lot of people. It says multiple scars or many scars. So you guys are good. You guys are good with this question. So yeah, multiple sclerosis does stand for either multiple scars or many scars, which makes sense because when we have the lesions in our brain, it can, it leaves like plaques or scars. So that's what it stands for. Now, have you guys ever heard that saying? And I know I'm fidgeting here, but have you ever heard that saying? It was like multiple sclerosis. I would just settle for single sclerosis. Have you guys ever heard that? So, hey, major prop to you guys. Pretty much everybody here got that first question right. So you guys are awesome. You guys are pros. I'm going to put this ball down because I'm tired of holding it. So, has anybody else ever heard that? Like, I would settle for single sclerosis, but But yeah, multiple sclerosis stands for many scars or multiple scars, either way you want to say it. I've heard a lot of people, well, not even multiple sclerosis, but I always like when I see people that use the MS acronym and make that turn into something else. And I think one of my favorite ones is when they say MS stands for many superheroes. Because how true is that, right? Everybody that is dealing with MS, you're a superhero. You know, you're dealing with this day in and day out, and you're rocking it, and each day is a new day, and you're going out there and you're thriving. So MS, definitely, I love the mini superheroes part of that. But so yeah, multiple sclerosis stands for, or it means many scars, which again kind of makes sense. Yeah, that works too. So I've actually, what else do you guys have? What else can you what else do you guys have for MS? There you go. You know, I see a lot of people that use like Monster, like where like they'll have the capital M and then like the capital S. I see that one a lot. So yeah, so good job. Question 1, you guys got that one. So what do you say? That I think you guys were like 100% on that one. Like everybody got that one. So I kind of answered this earlier. My initial symptoms were kind of like numbness, like sensory issues, and kind of varied. I had some tingling in my fingertips at time of diagnosis. I ended up with the Laramate sign, to where I would look down at my feet and I would get that electric shock and like that buzzing feeling. So that was interesting. But as of today, I still have days where I get like numbness in my hands or my feet or tingling. Again, a lot of sensory issues for me. A lot of it seems to get worse, or like brain fog, like cog fog. Definitely if I'm stressed or lack of sleep, things like that. Heat is one of the ones, or heat definitely affects a lot of people with MS, but in my case, it's more of the cold. So I really dislike this time of year. But where most of the people with MS, don't do too well in the heat. But in my house, we call it multiple sclerosis. That is the first time I've ever heard that, but I like it. So, so let's go to question 2. All right, remember, no cheating. I know a couple more people have joined since I did question 1. So let's just see what we think. So no cheating. Ready? Question number 2. What is the most common first reported symptom that leads to an MS diagnosis? And again, this is not going to be for everybody, but what is the most common first reported symptom that leads to an MS diagnosis? What do you guys think? Okay, Aaron says optic neuritis, leg tingling, spasticity, numbness. These are all symptoms of MS. Numbness. Numbness, not being able to swallow. Yep, that's actually, that's a symptom as well. Tingling. Numbness. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of numbness and tingling. But, actually, I'll see if anybody else wants to pitch in. We'll give it another second. Okay, another numbness and tingling. All right, so the most common reported symptom that leads to an MS diagnosis is optic neuritis. So, Aaron, you were correct. So, yay, round of applause. So, a lot of you guys mentioned numbness and tingling, but when they look at all the studies of everybody with MS, the number one most common reported first symptom is optic neuritis. Now, I always wonder if that means that was their first symptom, or you know, if you wake up and you have like some numbness in you know, a certain part of your body or tingling, like for some people, I wonder if they can just kind of like ignore that and be like, oh, I don't know what this is, but it's not really bothering me, so I'll just keep going. But then, you know, once something affects your eyes or your vision, you know, because optic neuritis can be double vision, blurred vision, you know, it could be total blindness in a case. And so I wonder if, like, you know, they might experience other things. And this is just me wondering again, I don't know, but then all of a sudden it's like something happens with their eyes and it gets pretty scary and you're like, whoa, that's my vision we're talking about. I got to go to the doctor. So I don't know if that's the case, or if maybe that is like the first thing they experience. But again, in my case, there wasn't optic neuritis. It was a sensory issue for me. But that's when you look back, optic neuritis is the most common first reported symptom for those with MS. So that was a good one. You guys all got the first question right, and this one we had some mixed answers there. But all those answers that you shared, like the numbness and the tingling and the spasticity, all of that is definitely MS symptoms. And some of those are commonly shared symptoms among many people with MS too. So yeah, you can call them common symptoms. Again, symptoms will vary from person to person, but there are some symptoms that will go from person to person. So good job. So this is kind of fun. I kind of like this. I feel like a game show host. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to question 3. Behind door number 3. How often, worldwide, not just the United States. Hey, how are you? How often is someone diagnosed with MS worldwide? I would love to hear your answers here. How often is somebody else diagnosed with MS throughout the world? What do you guys think? And this may surprise you, but once every 5 minutes, okay? 20 times a day? Every hour? So how often is someone diagnosed with MS worldwide? So we got a couple people said every hour. We got 20 times a day. We got every 5 minutes. I don't know that one. Take a guess. No clue? That's all right. So how often is someone diagnosed with MS worldwide? Well, Erica Lynn was correct. Every 5 minutes, somebody else receives an MS diagnosis. How crazy is that? Like, I know like the stats from the MS societies come out there and they say, 2.3 million or 2.8 million, whatever the number is. 2.8 million people. That was a good guess, though. They say 2 point whatever million it is worldwide have MS, and those stats are from, 2018, I think, at this point. When they always say, over 1 million people in the United States have it. But if we're seeing numbers like this, and just that 3 or 4 year time period since those stats came out, those numbers have to be dramatically higher, right? So, yes, I was diagnosed 10 years ago, November of 2012. But if you look at that, if somebody's getting diagnosed every 5 minutes, and I know this is the world, but if you look at like the United States, it can't be much higher than that, right? But those stats from a couple years ago have to be dramatically different, and it's really sad if you think about it. And I saw something that said the rates of MS from like back in 1974 all the way up through now have, I want to say, like more than doubled or something like that. So it's pretty crazy how like MS seems to be accelerating here over the last, decade or so, last couple decades. So it's really sad, and I don't know if that's because maybe more people are developing it, or maybe we know what to look for, or maybe just technology is getting better. So do my symptoms include numbness? Yes. Is random cold sensation like ice water being poured on you in a hip area a symptom? So there's so many different skin sensations that somebody can experience with MS. So I'm going to say, yeah, it definitely could be a symptom. Now, it doesn't mean that is a symptom. I mean, that's one thing with MS is that, like there's so many different things. Like one of the hardest things, at least to me, about having MS is questioning whether what I'm experiencing is MS or is it something else, because other things are still out there, right? But so many different skin sensations you can experience. You have better MRIs. That's probably it, as well. And, but I mean, you have the numbness, the sensory, the itchiness. I don't know if you guys experience itchiness. A lot of times I get itchiness, of course, right when I'm getting ready to go to bed, which is the worst time for that to happen. But itchiness, it can feel like tingling. There's burning sensation. So I'd imagine you can get the cold sensations. I remember one day I went outside and it was pretty humid, and I walked outside and it felt like I like walked into like a sprinkler. You ever see like those misting tents where it just felt like little like cool water droplets like all over me? And I don't know what that was. It was only there for like 15, 20 seconds and it kind of went away. Um, so it goes to show like how crazy, this disease is and how it does affect everybody differently, depending on where the myelin and then the nerves are getting eaten and, things like that. So it's pretty crazy, isn't it? So fatigue, yeah, fatigue's another one, that affects a lot of, a lot of people. So is it pretty common for parts of your body to go numb once in a while? I was diagnosed 2 years ago. Again, I can't answer this exactly because I'm not a doctor by any means. I know I do have like numbness and things like that. But so obviously numbness or can be a symptom of MS, but it's hard to say, specifically in that case. So my legs jerk involuntarily. Yeah, you get the spasticity. I see somebody said drop foot. Have I ever used an FES? I have not. I would love to hear more about that though. My 15-year-old just got diagnosed last year. Oh, it's so young. When climbing in bed, my skin burns. Yeah, I've heard people say, like even when they wear pants or like a shirt, like as soon as the fabric touches their leg, it drives them insane. It burns or it's itching or it's just so uncomfortable. It's normal from his point. What about your memory? Is it bad? Yeah, Tracy would probably say it's pretty bad. No, sometimes I can't remember things, that's for sure. See, she just yelled yes. I stumble a lot. I have problems sometimes like talking over myself, as you're probably hearing, or, finding the right words and things like that. So muscle twitching or spasms, I get that a lot of times. Sorry, I dropped my thing. If I'm stressed, like I'll notice like muscle twitches and spasms and things like that. And sometimes they're just like little minor twitches. And sometimes I've gotten, woken up from like the Charlie horse type where they just like grab and don't want to let go. And other times those are like in like the back of my thigh, things like that. But so it just goes to show like there's so many different weird things that can happen, so it's funny you see the questions, well, is this possible? And it's like, probably possible. So, but yeah, so somebody is getting diagnosed with MS every 5 minutes. Like, is that? So, but you guys are doing good. That was, see, now it's backwards for me. Now, that was question 3. So, who's ready for question 4? Here we go. Question 4. What percentage of MS cases are in females versus males? Who gets MS more? Is it the ladies? Is it the guys? And what percentage of MS cases are in female versus males? Yeah, stress is so evil. I mean, it's not even good. I mean, for anybody in general. But just stress can do so much for those with MS, and it's like a constant cycle, right? So like, MS can cause stress, but stress makes MS worse. So it's like, oh, this is fun. So, okay. So, you guys are coming in here. Oh, no. So, 80-20, I see 70% female, 65%, 80% females. Some people are just saying the ladies have more, which you are correct. Erica said 75-25. I see 90-10, 80%, 80-20, 60-70% female. Okay. So, you guys are all right in the ballpark there. You guys are good. You guys are awesome. Like, you guys know your stuff. So I kind of said this a little bit ago, Ace. I was diagnosed. I woke up one day and had some numbness that quickly spread pretty much everywhere from the chest down throughout the day. So a couple of ER visits later, I was told everything was fine until I started getting tingling in my hand. So then they started to look at MRI in my spine, or my C-spine and my neck, and I had a lesion at C2 in my spinal cord, and then they found some more lesions in the brain. So that's how I was diagnosed. So So you guys are pretty good. I'll give it another second here, see if anybody else wants to pitch in here. But what percentage of MS cases? See, I can't talk. What percentage of MS cases are in females versus males? And a lot of you guys are right in the ballpark. Some of you guys even had it, but approximately 75% of all MS cases are in females. So females outrun or out. It's like 3-1 in a sense. So 80-20, Mike, you just said it, but it's so it's about 3-1. However, some studies do show that even though the men it has a lower percentage, a lot of studies show that men seem to have a more severe course of the disease, whatever that means. So more ladies have it, but if you look at some studies, they do show that men, in many cases, I guess, have a more severe course of the disease. So, hey, thanks for joining, Paige. Good to see you. Have a great night. Christy said, "What is a lesion?" So what MS is an autoimmune condition to where your immune system starts attacking your nerve cells. So there's like your nerve cells have a coating on it, like a fatty coating that's called myelin, and it eats away at that, which causes inflammation. So when you do MRIs of the brain, the lesion is basically areas of active. Well, they'll show up as bright spots on an MRI if they're active demyelination, I guess, occurring. So they show up as like bright spots on an MRI. So basically it's areas of damage, I guess, being done by the disease. So areas that, your nerve cells have been eaten away. And even when they heal, if you will, they kind of scar over. So eventually it goes through, the nerve cells then get exposed, and then your brain can't properly send signals to the rest of your body, which can then, cause some issues down the road, and then slowly, causing some disabilities in some people. So, but a good way to describe it's kind of like a phone cord. I like to use the phone cord instruction. I think we've all had that phone charger to where the wires are starting to pull out of the end of it. Raise your hand if you've seen that, because I know we've all had some at some point. But you have a phone cord, so you have like that plastic coating over the wires inside. I thought I had one. I guess I don't have one. But you have the wire, the plastic coating, which is kind of like the myelin on your nerve cells, to where, do I have one? Nah, I don't. So in a sense, like when you get those wires that all of a sudden, like the head of the charger's falling off, sometimes that charger might work, sometimes it might not. And that's very similar as to how it works with MS, right? So once that nerve or our wires, in a sense, are exposed, our brains can't necessarily send signals properly to the rest of the body. So like if we're having trouble moving our leg, it's not necessarily, muscle related. It's that, hey, my brain might not be able to tell my leg to move. But then maybe the next day I could be completely fine. So just like that phone charger may work today, and then tomorrow it might not at all. That is very similar to kind of describe what MS does. I mean, obviously not exactly, but that's kind of the description I like to use. It is the myelin sheath that protects our nerve cells, and then therefore, once it gets eaten away, that the brain can't send the electric impulses or the signals properly to the rest of the body. I have numbness and tingling in my hands and feet and legs. It doesn't last for days or hours. Do you think it could still be MS? I'm not a doctor or a medical professional, so I can't give you a definite answer there. All I can say is those could be definitely symptoms of MS, but that could be symptoms of many other things as well. So definitely if you're concerned, I would, go talk to your doctor at least, maybe do a little bit of research. But, when MS is diagnosed, unfortunately, a lot of times it's done by ruling out so many other things, because so many things out there can mimic MS. And I mean, there's some pretty telltale signs. You can have the lesions, again, that show up on the MRI in the brain or the spinal cord or even the optic nerve. So pretty much anywhere in your central nervous system. And then some lumbar punctures. You'll see some doctors do some lumbar punctures, and they check for certain O bands in the spinal fluid. And those are pretty telltale sign of MS. But a lot of the diagnosis process does involve ruling out some other things. So. if I had MRIs on my back, would they have seen the MS bright spots? It's hard to say because not everybody has spinal lesions. Some people do, some people don't. Some people may only have lesions in their brain if they have MS. Some people, might have it in their C-spine, so maybe like your neck. So if an MRI was done and excluded those areas, maybe they might not have seen anything. So, lesions could be pretty much anywhere in the central nervous system, and it could be different for everybody. And some people could have hundreds of lesions. Some people might only have a couple. But it's not necessarily the number of lesions that matter. It's more the location. So you have a lot of nerves that run through your spinal cord. So when I had my lesion at the C2 sign of my spinal cord, my neurologist thinks that's what was causing my problems because of the location of it and with all the nerves that flows through that area. So okay, yeah, tell Blake I said hi, I'll be here. Several autoimmune diseases and recently brain lesions that aren't big enough to diagnose as MS. Did you have IV with contrast? So if you get contrast, if you get MRIs with contrast, so you get that, most of the time it's called gadolinium or whatever. So if there's an active lesion or an active area of demyelination, those will show up as bright spots. They kind of absorb the contrast. So they kind of show up as bright spots on an MRI. And a lot of times if you have MS, you'll see, well, those aren't MS spots or lesions. He's like, those are bright ideas because they will shine up bright. So I had every MRI I've had except for my one last year, I had contrast. But last year they decided not to do the contrast, which actually made it quite a bit shorter, which is always good. So you're not laying in the tube all strapped there and can't move. But yeah, so they use contrast to see if any active lesions, I guess, because they will show up as bright spots. Can you have MS with no lesions? I see this question asked so many times, and I honestly don't know the matter of fact answer for that. Again, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I'd have to research. But my guess would be there's probably a lesion somewhere. Maybe it's just in a spot the MRIs can't pick it up, or maybe, because it could be the optic nerves, it could be the brain, it could be the C-spine, it could be the thoracic spine, it could be the lumbar spine. There's so many different, areas maybe the lesions could be. But I do see that question asked a lot, so maybe it is possible. So brain, neck, and spine. Woke up numb from the neck down. Took many trips. Yeah, I when I told my story earlier, I went to the ER twice, and they told me I was fine. So, and then my first neurologist, I point that out because he didn't last very long. But my first neurologist looked me right in the eye, and he said, "You're making it all up. There's nothing wrong with you." So, Suze, it's been 10 years for me. November was 10 years. So November of 2012 was when I was diagnosed. Gotta help with my kiddo. Hey, thanks for stopping on. I'm glad you kind of hung out with me for the last, it's almost been an hour. So I appreciate it. So thank you. So we've been doing a little bit of MS trivia. If you kind of just hopping on, I do just MS chats from time to time. Sometimes on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. It did take a little break from the chats around the holidays, and but hey, I figured we'll get back to it. And I love talking to you guys and hopping on here. So, how often do you have flare-ups and how bad do they get? So in my case, since I was diagnosed, I've been pretty stable, and I like to attribute that to the medication I'm on, Gilenya. I mean, I have times where I might be fatigued or, I have brain fog and things like that. But an official relapse, I've been pretty fortunate, and I attribute that to the MS, the medication, which is kind of why I'm a little worried that I might have to switch here soon because of the funding situation. But so we'll see. But if anybody else wants to pitch in and share their experiences on the flare-ups and how bad, please do. So I'll give you guys a minute there, and then we'll move on to question number 5. And we'll do a little bit of trivia and, maybe learn some stuff and have a little bit of fun. But how do you keep positive and hopeful? That's a That's a good question, and it's different probably for everybody. And I think one of the key assets to dealing with this is positivity. And sometimes it can be pretty hard, especially when it seems like things are kind of stacked against you and things like that. But there are positives there. There are positives there. Like, just think of, MS can take things away from a lot of people. But there definitely are positives there. If you think about it, you have just the people, I've met here. Obviously, my faith and prayer and, just talking with God and reading the Bible and, things like that. But, there are definitely positivities, and there are ways to cope with this and get through. So, oh yeah, Tracy said prayer. What medication am I on? I am on Gilenya, which is a once-a-day pill. But like I said earlier, I don't know if I'm going to have to switch because apparently their funding ran out. There was a generic medication that was released, and their copay assistance might be going away. So I'm going to see what happens here in the next couple months, and I'm really not looking forward to switching medication because I've had no new lesions since I've been on Gilenya for coming up on 10 years now. So it's going to be a real bummer if I have to lose that. So faith definitely helps. Amen. Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. There's so much prayer. There's so much power when it comes to prayer and and just trusting God. I started on that. I just got switched to Ocrevus, and I'm not sure I like it. Oh, that's not what I want to hear, because that was if I had to switch, I was actually going to look at that. So I would love to know why you don't like it. If you don't mind sharing, is it just side effects, or is it just like, what is it that you don't like about it? If you don't mind me asking. So, hey there, thanks for joining in, Stat. I was on Lemtrada. I've heard a couple people that was on Lemtrada. So, is the medicine expensive even with insurance? So, the short answer is yes. These medications are very expensive. However, most, if not all of them, have copay assistance programs. So, the majority of patients get them at either very low cost or for absolutely free. So, I haven't really paid anything for Gilenya the whole time I've been on it. And that's why now that their copay assistance programs are stopping, that's why I'm a little worried that I might have to switch because of, I don't know how much it's going to cost. Because you're talking these medicines are cost, up to $100,000 a year, at this point. And I'm like, who can afford this? Like, it's insane. So, okay, so a couple people here on Ocrevus. Tysabri is one that have been around for a while. Seems like a lot of people like that. So I know Tysabri is an infusion every 4 weeks or possibly every 6 weeks now. I see they're testing with, whereas Ocrevus is about twice a year. Couldn't do Gilenya due to the heart side effects. So when you take your first dose of Gilenya, they make you do a first dose observation, and I think it was about 6 hours, and they came in every half hour and checked my blood pressure and checked my heart rate, and mine was okay. But again, that's the beauty of this disease is everybody's different, right? What works for one is definitely not gonna work for another. So Tysabri is almost $10,000 a month. Yeah, I believe it. Like it is absolutely crazy. Ocrevus gave me shingles choice. Wow, that's interesting. So that's what scares me is that I've been doing so good for the last 10 years, and I'm scared to switch because I don't know what side effects I might experience. So, Kesimpta, yeah, that's a fairly new one. I don't really hear any too much negative on that. Copaxone is kind of like that one's been around for a while. A lot of people like it that's on it. I just might have a little bit of issue with just injecting myself. I don't know if I'd be able to do that or not with I don't know if I could do it, but so let's go to question 5 real quick. So what country has the highest rate of MS as a percentage of its population? Ocrevus is killing my immune system. Yeah, so Gilenya, also my white blood cell counts are very low, but I've been fortunate, like no infections or anything like that. But so what country has the highest MS rates as a percentage of its population? I see somebody said the US. I see a couple Canadas in here so far. Somebody else says Canada. Aaron says United States. We got another Canada. We'll see if anybody else wants to jump in here. right? The U.S. So that's a couple people that said U.S. We got a Mexico. Got several people said Canada. So the answer to this question, what country has the highest MS rates as a percentage of its population? Most of you guys are correct. It is Canada. But there's a theory out there that vitamin D plays a role in MS. So there's a theory out there, and if you look it up, like those places that tend to be further away from the equator seem to have higher rates of MS, which gives kind of power to that theory that maybe vitamin D does play a role. I know in my case personally, when I was diagnosed, my vitamin D levels were way low. I actually have to take 10,000 IU or units or what, I don't know what IU stands for. But I had to take 10,000 IU a day when I remember. And again, that's different for everybody. So don't make any changes to your healthcare regimen without talking to your doctor. But if you haven't gotten your vitamin D levels checked, check it out. There's some studies show that the higher your vitamin D levels are, it could be beneficial for MS and obviously some other things as well. And I know you can get vitamin D from the sun, but again, that doesn't help necessarily everybody. And then of course, when do you get the most sunlight? In the summertime, whereas heat can affect those with MS. So it's kind of hard sometimes maybe to get that vitamin D from the sun in some cases. But yeah, so Canada has the highest rate of MS as a percentage of its population. And there's a map that I've seen. You need the toxin bond to get checked to see if you have genetic tissue. Where would I look into that if you don't mind? But there's a map like I've seen, and I'll share it if I can find it, where it actually shows like how the rates get so much higher the further away you get from the equator. And then I know people might ask, well, hey, I live in Florida, and I have MS, and it's hot down here all the time. Or I live in the Caribbean, and I have MS, and but again, it just goes to show that everybody is different. So, what are MS symptoms? There's so many of them. It could be things from weakness or fatigue to numbness and tingling and all these skin sensations. You could go, blindness, and you have cognitive issues, memory issues. You have issues with, it could be word finding. It could be comprehension. So there's so many different things of MS. So what percent does Canada have? I will have to find out. I want to say it was... I want to say something that said it was over 200 for every 100,000 or something like that, but it was definitely the highest out there. And then I think Europe, like Northern Europe, was catching it actually. So I don't know, it might have even passed it. But as far as I know, Canada is still the right answer for that. But you guys guessed it. That was awesome. So you guys are doing good. So we're halfway through. So we'll go to the next question here. Oh, you guys just saw the answer. No peeking. So, including generic medications that have now come out, how many medications are currently approved by the FDA here in the United States? I have to use a walker and my voice is taking a beating. Yeah, it can affect that too. It can affect our voices. It can affect swallowing. It can, speech like crazy. So, you guys saw the answer. That's my fault. 15, 25, 24, 21. Maybe not everybody saw the answer. So I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. Though somebody knows for sure. So including generics, how many medications are currently approved? Obviously there's more in testing and things like that. But how many are currently approved? Blake, she's cheating, isn't she? That's right. That means since you caught her cheating, you don't have to wear the puffball anymore. So since some of you guys saw it, but the all right, so you guys still got some answers coming in. So the answer, that Full Bottle guessed magically, don't know how she did it, but the answer to this question is there are now 24 FDA-approved medications for treating MS here in the United States. Now that might change in other countries because obviously they all have their different approval symptoms. But so 24, which is really crazy, and you'll see why that's really crazy here in a second. But each year it seems like they're coming out with more and more. They're constantly making new innovations and breakthroughs, and it seems like the medications that are coming out seem to be getting safer, which is awesome. Safer and less side effects, maybe more manageable side effects, which is always good. If you think about it, you have like medicines like Copaxone and some of the other injectable medications, and now you have Ocrevus, which is like twice a year. So in my case, taking the pill, I'm always like, oh, did I take it today? I had no idea. I always forget if I take the medication or not. So are there any studies looking into the cause? Absolutely. And I hope we get there soon. But probably the biggest breakthrough of the cause is they did find there's a link between MS and maybe some other autoimmunes and the Epstein-Barr virus. Hang on one sec. And the Epstein-Barr virus out there, which it seems like majority of people with MS have tested positive for the antibodies. So LDN is something I've heard a lot about. Like, it's one of those things that, at least over the 10 years I've been diagnosed, the low dose naltrexone, or is it naltrexone? Might be. I kind of hear a lot about it, and then it fades away, and then I hear about it again. But again, I've heard good things, I've heard bad things. It's a real bummer that what works for one may not work for somebody else with MS. So, but I feel like they're getting closer, and things are working better. We're constantly learning new things, and I know you hear me talk about Dr. Aaron Boster all the time, and he kind of put it this way when they were asked, "You ever think we'll see a cure for MS?" And he was honest about it. He's an awesome neurologist. If you're not following Dr. Boster's YouTube channel, please do that right after you leave here. But he was honest about it, and he said in his lifetime he doesn't think so. But what he thinks he'll see in his lifetime is that he used this term. He said that I think they will make MS boring. And he's like, well, what do you mean make MS boring? He's like, well, I think it'll be so manageable at some point that it'll be kind of similar to like diabetes, right? Most everybody knows somebody that's diabetic. And yet, maybe back then it was a, real dangerous, real serious thing. But for the most part, nowadays, it's manageable. Like, oh, you're diabetic. You might take insulin or whatnot. And so he's like, he would love to see MS boring. Boster, B-O-S-T-O-R, or E-R, sorry, B-O-S-T-E-R, Dr. Aaron Boster. He's out of Columbus, Ohio. He actually has his own MS center that he just recently, it's the Boster Center for MS. So, but yeah, definitely check out his YouTube channel, check him out on Twitter, things like that too. But I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, he was talking about how he probably doesn't think there's going to be a cure in his lifetime, but he thinks that we can make MS boring to where with the new medications and the new treatments and just new things coming out that it can be manageable and people should be able to live close to normal lives even though they have it. And I liked his honesty. I like the way he thinks, and so I could definitely see that, right? So yeah, we had one person just magically guess the right answer to this question, but there are 24 current treatments approved in the United States to treat MS. So question 7. What year was the first MS treatment approved by the FDA? And part 2 of that is, what was that medication? So what was the very first medication approved to treat MS? And what year was it? So we just talked about, so there's now 24 currently approved. But when was the very first one approved? And what medication was it? So somebody said 1995. I see a 1994. 1994 with Avonex. Good night, everyone. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Have a great night. So, hey, how are you? 1984. Okay. So a couple people have said Copaxone. I hear Avonex. Okay. Avonex there in 26. I see 1979. Okay, these are awesome guesses here. But I can say that nobody has gotten it right as of yet. 92. Sienna, what's going on? Rebif. Okay. I'll give you guys another minute here. Rituxan. 1993, says Maggie. 1999. Kayla also said hi. Tell Kayla I said hi. And Miss Tracy says hi. Interferon. These are all good guesses. I'll give you guys another second. 1993, Interferon. Yeah, definitely see you guys on Wednesday. Some monoclonal. You guys got some good guesses here. So what year was the very first MS treatment approved by the FDA? And what was it? It was not 2010 or 2010, Blake. But the very first one was in 1993. And it was Betaseron. Which is, I guess, an interferon beta A, I believe it is. But, so the very first MS treatment is Betaseron, which I know some people still take this today, believe it or not. But it came out in 1993, so you're talking, 30 years ago now, right? 2003, 13, 22. So 30 years ago, and now there's 24 approved treatments. So in 30 years, we went from none to 24. How awesome is that? Right, I know I have so many people tell me that, when you fundraise and you do these events, and they're like, that money's not really going anywhere, that's not doing anything. Well, in 30 years, we now have 24 different medications. So that those monies being raised for the MS Society and all these events, and that money is absolutely going somewhere. Because how would that be possible without it? So 1993 was the very first one. I do believe Copaxone was 94. I think somebody did say that. But 1993, 30 years ago is when this first started. So these treatments, and if you think about it, are fairly new, for this disease. And they've come such a long way in only 30 years. So just imagine what the next 5 years are going to bring, or the next 10 years are going to bring. I think, nobody's glad to have MS, right? But I would say it's a good time to be out there to have treatments that can help manage the disease and live, close to normal lives. So how many people have been healed by those medications? There's a lot of people that have a lot of excessive medications. Like I said, for me, I've been 10 years now without any new lesions, no relapses, things like that. So, I know a lot of people don't have success. I know people that have tried to take the natural route, and some do very well. And some do not. So again, it kind of goes back that everybody's different. So, I think that's the biggest thing. That everybody is different. Some people have a lot of success on the medications, and some people don't. And that's kind of the bummer when it comes to this, is that we are all different, and we have to find the individualized healthcare of what works for us. And not one of these medicines. Not a single one of those medicines will claim to make your symptoms better. Like, all these medicines are out there to halt progression of the disease. Now, I've heard some people say they felt better, or maybe their symptoms did get better, but not one of these medications out there will claim to improve your symptoms, I guess, if you will. So the aims of these medications are to slow down progression of the disease. Now, I would love to see, I know there's a lot of trials out there that for like remyelination, like remyelinating the nerves. Now, once that happens, like once we get there, I would expect absolutely you see some symptoms, improving, because if you can remyelinate those nerves, your brain signals should be able to work better. So I'm super excited, for that. I know there's some remyelination testing that kind of fell through, but I know there's more. And just the fact that they keep working at it, and just the fact that they're going down that path, it's amazing, right? So I think there's going to be exciting times over the next, 5 to 10 years for those with MS. And I think it's going to get better and better. Just my opinion. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form, but just kind of seeing the progress, at least in the 10 years since I've been diagnosed, and just going back and just seeing over the last 30 years or whatnot, and, just seeing, life expectancies, and just how symptoms, and just, the percentage of people that, are still able to work, or, may not necessarily need a walking aid, I guess, of some sort. It just seems like it's getting better and better. So I'm currently taking Gilenya, which is a once-a-day pill. And I'm hoping I can stay on that. But like I just said, I know the funding's kind of running out, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not, but I'm hoping and praying. And if I have to switch, I hope that I have success with that as well. So a lot of research that's going to have to be done by me. Again, I'm kind of thinking maybe the Ocrevus route. I know, if I ever stopped medication, I know just me personally, I would be so filled with anxiety, and just kind of like every little thing I would feel, I'd be like freaking out, kind of thing. But so I have a lot of research to do on my end, just in case I do have to switch. But hopefully I do not. So Steph, yes, no more water bottles for me after the infamous stink bug incident. TikTok live battle. Tracy and I were just talking about the other night, and we don't know how people do that, but that would be really fun, actually. I don't even know how to do it. Like, I know you can invite people to join your lives and stuff like that, but I don't know how they do like the battle thing. So, don't remind me of the stink bug. I think I gagged for like 3 days after that happened. Like, I think I gagged. So gross. So anyway, when was the first oral medication approved by the FDA, and what was it? So, yeah, we'll definitely have to figure out how to do that. You have to let me know, and that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe we can get Tracy on there, and you guys can be there. So when was the first oral medication approved by the FDA? So the very first ever medication was 1993, and it was Betaseron. But when was the first oral medication approved, and what was it? So somebody said Gilenya in 2006. Some comments in this live were filtered. One of you guys said something you shouldn't have. 2010 Gilenya. I got 2000 Tecfidera. Somebody's comments are getting filtered. What are you guys saying up in here? 2010. Okay, so we have a couple 2010s. We got a 2006. We got a 2000. We got an I have no idea. And hey, that's okay too, because we're going to tell you. Fingolimod in 2011, which is Gilenya. Steph said, I don't know. I was in the blind study for Tecfidera. 2011, Fingolimod. So I have a lot of people saying Fingolimod or Gilenya. Blake says Gilenya in 2010. So you guys are actually pretty dead on this one. So it was 2010, and it is Gilenya. So that is that's what I take. I actually started it in February of 2013. So coming up on 10 years, but now I just kind of said we'll see how long that lasts. Hopefully I can continue to be on it. But Blake, I know you said you were on Gilenya, and I believe you said you stopped pretty much altogether, right? So Blake, you're not like Googling over there, are you? I don't think you would cheat. I don't know. Somebody else might be cheating, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you would be cheating. If so, that puffball's coming back, man. You guys are cheating. You guys can't cheat. No Googling. We have 2 questions left. You're not allowed to Google. Google is forbidden. Same with Yahoo and what else is out there? No. Isn't that weird? Like with all the other search engines out there, like how Google kind of became so popular. Like you never hear anybody say, "Oh, I'm going to Yahoo it," or "I'm going to Bing it." Like, how did Google like trump everything? Like they were all search engines at some point, right? How did that happen? Hey, that's okay. That's all right. But hey, if you didn't know, now you know, right? So, if you're Googling, you're learning. You guys crack me up. I should have named my 15-year-old son Google. We have a 15-year-old son now, and I think he thinks he knows more than Google. You guys. So, all right, here we go. Next question. At what age was the youngest reported case of MS? Now, no Googling, no Yahooing, no DuckDuckGoing, no Binging. I don't know what other search engines are out there, but don't do it. 13, 9, 11, 5. So we know MS is commonly diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 40 or 20 and 50. Obviously, there are people that have been diagnosed outside of those ages. So Pookie said 2 years old. Somebody else said 2. Shanna said 2. We got a 9. We got a 15. We got a 9 or 5. We got a 7. Kayla, how are you? I kind of like this trivia stuff. Should we do this again sometime? Got a 28. I've seen So Young on here. Toddler age, Maggie says. So, good, how are you? Yeah, so I kind of took a little bit of a break from all social media there for a bit. And, just kind of spent some more time with the family. And, just kind of adjusting my priorities a little bit. So, still going to be doing the lives and things like that. It may not be every single week like it was before. So just kind of adjusting some priorities a little bit. But so it's good to be back. So I hope you're doing well. I like it. It's informative. So I used to do these Chat MS. We call them hashtag Chat MS sessions every Monday. We've been doing it for about, 7 years now, probably coming up on 8 years. And it kind of started on Twitter, and we would do it every Monday. Twitter expanded to Facebook, expanded to Instagram, and then probably here just last year or so, I think actually my very first video was probably MS Awareness Month, so March 1st. So probably coming up a year here on TikTok. Like I've had TikTok for a bit, kind of looked around, but I was like, video is not quite my strong suit. Definitely out of my comfort zone. And but I think I'm getting a little better, even though it's just kind of me staring at myself talking, which is always a blast. So Hannah, you're cheating again. So at what age was the youngest reported case of MS? Sometimes you need a break. I'm doing better. Just got over COVID. So I'm glad you're feeling better. Yeah, definitely glad you're feeling better. That's definitely still going around. Oh, somebody can't wait. Get the drum roll going. So drum roll. Here we go. The youngest reported case, unfortunately, was a child that was 2 years old. Now, what I don't know is what year this was, and I don't exactly know what symptoms or how they knew. I don't know if it was like a physical thing to where maybe there was vision or walking. So I don't know if definitely something I made a note to follow up on because I am really curious myself. But 2 years old. And I don't know again how long ago that was or what the current status is, if it was somewhat fairly recent. But there's several people that get diagnosed in their teens. and Stony Brook. Okay, Stony Brook Hospital. But there are a lot of people that are getting diagnosed young, at a young age. And, the most common, they say, is between the ages of 20 and 40 or, 20 and 50, depending on where you look. And kind of as we talked about earlier, the number of women outpace the men 3-1. So 3 times as many women have MS than men. But unfortunately, the youngest was at 2 years old, and I couldn't imagine that. So my daughter was diagnosed at 16 last year. If you don't mind me asking, not trying to get personal details here, but at 16 or pediatric, I guess, like, do they start medication at that age? I know 16's almost, it's not as young, I guess, as I've seen, but still curious in pediatric cases, like, what the approach is with that. Like, do they go after treatment right away, or they just okay, cool. So she did start Ocrevus, okay. So me personally, I was diagnosed at 30. I always try to think back, and there's some things that have happened, prior to then I could probably attribute, but at the time I never really thought anything of it. I saw a girl in here doing infusions at the age of 7. Wow. TikTok just popped up. I don't know if you can see this. TikTok said, "Great job, you've gone live for 90 minutes. Don't forget to take a break." But we're almost done. TikTok. Quit yelling at me. We're almost done. Terrified of my kids. Yeah, I know that feeling all too well. So we have a 15-year-old, and that scares me to death. So it's kind of one of those things that I don't know if you guys are in the same boat, but like every time something weird happens, like, my mind instantly goes there, and it's like just causes a lot of like stress and anxiety, and I'm like, that does scare me. So here we go. We'll go to the last question, and I think you guys all know the answer to this question, but that's okay. And maybe some people are going to give me some slack for this one, but is there a cure for MS? There's so many people that want to throw out the C word, whether it's every time they get a headache or anything. Yeah, I'm the exact same way. And the bees like, "Oh, my legs hurt." I'm like, no. But, see, there you go. I see the no's all coming in. I love it. I know there was somebody in here earlier, who was trying to debate that a little bit. But, so is there a cure for MS? No. Oh, no. I missed it. No. There is not. As many people that want to say they have cured their MS, there is no cure. Now, not to say people haven't had success. Maybe they've switched up their diet. Maybe they've exercised more. Yes, there is no cure yet. But, people get great success by switching up their diets or, changing their lifestyles. Maybe I've seen people, cut out dairy, or they've cut out meat, or some people said, "No, I'm only going to eat meat." So, you got the paleo diet, you got the Wales protocol, you got so many other diets, like the caveman diet, if you will, which is kind of like paleo, I guess. They're probably the same thing. I've seen people, there was a stretch there where like every year is like, oh, they use Plexus or Herbalife or things like that, or it's kind of hard, there was a stretch. Any video or post you would post, it would be like, "Oh, I cured my MS with mushrooms," or something. "Follow this Instagram," or "Buy this book for $20 and we'll show you how to cure your MS." And I know some people might come at me if they hear this and say, "No, stem cells. Stem cells is the cure." And, I will say I'm excited about stem cells, but it is still not a cure. Have I changed anything in regards to diet? No, I haven't. I should, because I see a lot of people that have had success with diet, but I will say diet is one of those areas that I struggle with. I just like food too much, and I know that's a dumb excuse, and I know I need to do it well, but I'm telling you, the Little Debbie snack cakes are my downfall. I don't know if anybody has ever done a study on like Little Debbie snack cakes and like Swiss rolls and zebra cakes. and its effect on MS. But I've been stable for about 10 years now. I'm just saying. But I don't know if that's ever been an official study. But I'm on board. But no, so I haven't really changed. I haven't really changed diet. I do need to exercise a little more now, like in the spring and in the summer. I definitely try to get out and ride my bike, and train for doing the bike MS events, and I play softball and things like that just to try to stay active. But in regards to strict dieting, I haven't. Probably should, because I do hear so many people that have had success. I'm just trying to catch up here. Oh, you didn't know a dock in Mexico has herbs? Yeah. So, zebra cakes and Christmas tree cakes. Dude, those things are like crack, man. Those things are so addicting. Like, I can bypass, like, any candy in the house or anything like that, but if those things are in the house, or, like, the Nutty Buddies, like, they're done. Like, I can't do it. Well, I do it too much, I guess, is what I should probably say. But I know a lot of people want to come out there and say, like, stem cells. Stem cells is the cure. Stem cells is the cure. And I'm actually really excited about stem cells in a sense that I'm excited to see where it goes. Because there are, unfortunately, many companies out there that just try to make money off people with MS. Like, they'll claim to do stem cells, but it might not necessarily be the HSCT that has shown some results, but so they try to make money off of that. What med are you on? I'm on Gilenya with the pill, and I don't know if you missed it. Hopefully I can stay on it because their copay assistance is going away here soon, so I'm kind of concerned about switching. But I've lost 60 pounds. That's awesome. But with stem cells, so you have HSCT, the stem cell transplants, and I know it's risky. A lot of people want to say that it's not approved because they don't want people to cure, and I know people say it is the cure, you got to look at it, but it's really not. Again, so many people have had success with stem cell transplants. Like I know Selma Blair has had stem cell transplants. A couple other celebrities have. But if you look, I've talked to people that they feel great 5 or 6 years later, but then I've talked to people that, hey, they felt great for about 2 months, and then all of a sudden, they feel terrible again. So, unfortunately, the stem cell procedure, it's a little risky, but it's getting better to where the risk is lowering a little bit, but it doesn't work for everybody, just like every other, treatment or diet or anything like that. Unfortunately, it's not. Now, I will say, I think the last study I saw is after 5 years, I think 70% still showed no disease activity. And at 10 years, it lowered back down, I think, to maybe around 50% or 40%. And don't quote me on those numbers. But, hey, maybe there's that risk versus reward thing. If you're all about, hey, I'm still, potentially good 5 years later, maybe it is something I want to pursue. But, again, some have success and some don't, just like every other procedure out there. So I do think there's a lot of promise in the stem cell area. Hey, Lena, how are you? So I'm excited to see where that goes because I think they're going to keep developing that and, to make it safer. And I think that whole procedure, that whole aspect is going to keep getting better and better. I'm excited to see where these remyelination therapies go because I think they're just going to keep learning and do that. But there are a couple people that I see somebody's going to Mexico. There are people that have gone to other countries to get it done. And, there are some reputable areas that do it, and it's expensive, but unfortunately you got to be careful, and especially for those that are newly diagnosed, like it's scary, and everybody's looking for that cure, and everybody's looking for that hurry up and fix me thing, and unfortunately there's companies out there that will try to make money off of you, and they'll promise you this and promise you that, and if you're not careful, you spend all that money for nothing. So there's a couple things here in the States that even do it. I don't know if I'll name names, but there's some people out there that or some companies out there that claim they can cure this and they can cure that, and there's really no proof or really no studies behind it. I think just people hear stem cells and they get all excited when I guess there's multiple types of stem cell procedures. So no, there is no cure for MS, as much as we all wish there would be. No matter who comments on your post and trying to sell you this book for $9.99 or $19.99, or if you follow this, you're going to cure your MS. They're just trying to take advantage of us. And unfortunately, that's how some people are these days. Greed, greed out there. So, the Bible says that for the love of money is the root of all evil, and there's so much truth to that. So, if people can look to make a dollar off of anything, even us who have chronic illnesses, people are going to do it, unfortunately. So it's important for us to do our research. I posted a video the other day about some just different advice for newly diagnosed, and my thought was, one, research and knowledge. The more you can research about the disease, the better you'll be. Like, there's so much information out there, and anything you're looking for on the internet, you can find it, right? You could look up coffee, for example. You could say, hey, is coffee good for you? And you'll find all these results that says, hey, coffee is like the best thing ever for your health. And then you could go and you could look and say, is coffee bad for you? And you'll find all these articles how coffee is bad for you. So like the internet is such a double-edged sword. So like research treatments, research breakthroughs, research, make sure you're on reputable websites, making connections with other people. Whether it's TikTok, social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, there's tons of Facebook groups out there that are support groups. So make sure you're in a good one. Like anybody and everybody can create a Facebook group. There is one called Chat MS, by the way. Look it up. Anybody can create a Facebook group, but if it's a toxic one, leave it. Leave it and find a good one. We're here to lift each other up, right? We're all going through this battle together. Like, there's no reason we should be attacking somebody because somebody asked a question about a certain medication, or, we're here to support each other. And the more connections we can have, the more the larger our support systems are, the better off we're going to be as we're dealing with all this. So Steph said the MS Society, the MSAA, great resources. There's also the MSF, or the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation. Them and the MSAA offer great programs and grants, and sometimes you can get free cooling vests or free cooling equipment and things like that. So so a couple of you guys are agreeing me with like the Facebook groups. Anybody and everybody can create a Facebook group. So you got to make sure that it's a good one. Like anybody can put something out there. I mean, I've seen Facebook groups to where somebody would be like, hey, I just got diagnosed last week. What treatment are you on? And literally like 20 people in the group are like, I can't believe you would ever poison your body with that, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what is that doing to somebody who's already scared from, getting a diagnosis of MS? It's like, we're here to lift each other up. So anyway, that was my little rant on Facebook groups there. But hey, I hear that Chat MS one is a good one, though. If you guys are on Facebook, hey, just saying. But anyway, so we went through 10 questions. Went through 10 questions today. Did a little MS trivia, which I thought was awesome. You guys are cool. Got on a little bit early today at 7 instead of my normal 8 or 9. So started off a little slow, but I'm glad you guys joined in. And what do you think? Should we do some more trivia sometime? Like, I know sometimes we've chatted about different specific topics and things like that. But what do you guys think? Are you guys down for more trivia, like in the future? Maybe you learn some stuff. No cheating. We had a couple cheaters in here tonight. I'm not going to say any names. I don't even know if she's still in here. But so, all right. So I had fun. It's crazy. It's been like an hour and 45 minutes that I've been here chatting. So look, you just told on yourself. See there, you just admitted that you're cheating. So not the Mondayest Monday. But hey, as always, guys, thanks for listening to me ramble and babble, and I'm gonna try to maybe download this and put it on my YouTube channel, just because it was trivia and it's a little bit of fun. And again, you can't really see the comments on the YouTube video, so it'll probably just be me looking like an idiot talking to myself. But we'll put it out there because there's some cool questions here, and so it's a lot of fun, guys. So you guys are awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining in and just listening to me ramble and have a good time and goof off a little bit, because that's what it's all about, right? We're out here having fun and making connections, and hopefully you guys are making connections too, and just growing that support system. So you guys are awesome. Stay safe out there. Stay warm, And have a good night. Stay hydrated. Yes, stay hydrated. Have a great night.